Hello, and welcome to another episode of Not a Life Sentence. My guest today lives by the motto of following your passion, even if it means changing careers. He is the CEO and founder of Shiageto Consulting and trains professionals on the principles of IQ, EQ, and FQ. Faris Aranki, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you, Carla. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. It's really a pleasure to talk with you and all the listeners and viewers.
Thank you. How is the weather like today in the UK?
Well, it's still cold, but at least it's sunny here in the UK
Is it?
today. So, but you kind of get used to it being grey and miserable in the UK. I think we
True.
get about 2 days of sunshine. So if we didn't, we'd have nothing to talk about here in the UK. So it's all good.
Faris, for those that don't know, you studied mathematics and economics and were
Yeah.
a high school teacher. I believe all skills are transferable. Other than training, what skills did you transfer across from teaching?
Oh, I think teaching is amazing. You learn so many people skills that is invaluable, and great teachers should be wrapped in cotton wool because they're that great. You learn how to make really difficult things simple because
Mm,
the best way to teach someone is to make it simple. And actually, by making it simple, you understand it more yourself. You have to
true.
understand something to be able to explain it more simply. So you gain knowledge, you learn how to simplify things, you learn how to communicate because that's a large part of teaching communication, getting through to other people. You learn how to read people. Are they happy? Are they sad? Are they bored? You learn how to put yourself in their shoes. Oh, well, that child turned up today without any breakfast. That child, his parents are having problems, so they're probably going to be distracted. So it's just such a great training ground for people skills that we all need in life. And that's why I'm so grateful to the 6 years I spent teaching.
Right. We are going to talk about your company and what you do exactly. But when did you have the light bulb moment, or when did you have that moment when you said teaching was good, but it's time for me to have new adventures, basically?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll be honest with you, Carl, I sort of stumbled into teaching. I graduated from university at a time that the world economy wasn't doing very great. And I know a lot of people say that's similar to now. And there weren't a lot of jobs. So I thought, what can I do? And I looked at my degree and I thought, do you know what? I think I can teach this, even though I wasn't a formally qualified teacher. And I thought I'd love to go and explore some of the world. So I put that together and I managed to get a job teaching in a school in Latin America. And then from the school in Latin America, I carried on teaching. I taught in a school in Nepal. I taught in a university in Palestine. I then taught in a school in London. It wasn't a very good school in London. And that's what reminded me actually that teaching wasn't just going to be a temporary thing. And sort of 6 years had passed without me realizing. And that was, I had a bit of an epiphany and a decision point where I said, actually, this isn't going to be my vocation. So what
Right.
is? Let's address that. And so that's when I made my change into the business world.
Okay. So you train professionals on the principles of IQ, EQ, and FQ.
Yeah,
And I am not swearing here, am I?
you're not. A lot of people think.
What are those principles and how is it a good investment for companies?
Yeah. So, having been a teacher, I then moved into the business world and I spent 16 years across working for a company and then into consulting. And the one thing I kept seeing that companies that were successful had these three qualities: IQ, EQ, and FQ. And now they weren't explained like that, but I sort of began to put the pieces as a strategy. I worked in strategy for 16 years. The IQ is have a really good idea, have a good strategy, make sure it is really top drawer, is going to achieve what you want to achieve.
Mm,
But that's only one part of it. Now, a lot of companies are very smart people. They have a good IQ, they have good ideas. But the second part, an idea is just a piece of paper, unless you can get other people invested in it and excited by it and engaged. And that's where the EQ comes in, the emotional intelligence, the ability to get on with others and get them working well together around an idea. But even that's not enough. And that's when I discovered this missing component, which I called FQ, focus quotient, which is the ability to stay focused on what is your idea? What is important to you? It's amazing how companies and people get distracted, and often it's not their fault. So being able to really focus is what FQ is about. But you need the idea, the team, and the focus.
Right. Is it hard for you to sell this idea to the corporate world?
Yes. For a couple of reasons. One, nobody's ever heard of FQ, but
Yes.
more importantly, most people don't think that they're not working well together. They don't think that they don't have a good idea. They don't think that they're not focused. These things very much attack a person's sense of self-belief and their ego. So it's not like you can say to leaders, hey, you're really bad at this. Do you want some help? The other thing is, it's not something you just type into Google. Hey, even if you did need it, you wouldn't think, oh, I'm just going to type into Google and see who sells FQ improvement today. So it's one of those things that you have to sort of approach in a different way. And the way we do it with Shiageto is we talk to people about, are they achieving their goals? Are they actually delivering their strategy? And if they're not, we'll explore with them why not. And it's usually, I'd say, almost 100% of the time, it's an IQ, an EQ, or an FQ problem. And that's when we say, well, perhaps we can help you with that. So it's a more of a roundabout way to get clients on board. But that's part of the fun, is what I tell the team. It'd be, if we just, if it were selling toothpaste, that might be easier, but it wouldn't be as fun.
And the focus ability, is it something that you have come up with, or has it always been there, like the IQ and EQ?
It's something I came up with. So when I researched it, I couldn't find it. And so I sort of put in I wrote about it and I put in an application for a trademark around it. And so now I own the trademark around FQ, but it's just a nice language that we use. And actually, I've got a funny story, Carla. Well, I say funny, I can say it's funny now, but once I trademarked the IQ, EQ, FQ, I got involved in a trademark dispute. I had a big Belgian company send lawyers after me saying, look, actually, this is too close to something we do in our company. And, it took over a year of lawyers being involved, a lot of legal fees. And I almost thought of giving it up, but I was so reassured by what my clients were telling me about how they resonated with them that I kept going and we won the legal battle. So I'm very glad that we now are known for IQ, EQ, FQ.
I am not sure about the UK, but in Australia, more and more companies are employing a person like a business coach, but they are calling them the executive coach, where they talk about the IQ, EQ, and I would say about the FQ, but without using those words.
Yes, I'm sure. These are not, although the language is new, the things we do are common. And, I often say to my clients, 99% of what I'm going to tell you, you already know. Okay. The difference is you're not doing anything with it. I'm going to make you do something with it. And it's funny how much of us already have great knowledge in our heads. We don't actually do it day to day. We don't actually use that knowledge. Think of all the things you used to get told as a child, and you probably say to your children, go to bed early, drink lots of water.
Yep.
I don't know about you, but my mum was telling me that when I was very little, over 40 years ago. And now what are sort of, researchers and influencers telling us? Oh, you should go to bed early. You should drink enough water. You should eat enough bread. So we've already known all these things, right? But sometimes it's not what the knowledge is, it's how we learn it.
It's how we learn it. Yeah, look, and I did mention this to say that I would think that what you do more and more is going to be needed and wanted, and people are going to understand it. Because, if they are employing that person just to coach the executives and more so on their mindset, I would assume this is what they really need, the IQ, EQ, and the FQ framework.
Yeah, I certainly think so. And I think we're definitely seeing that, especially in the modern world with more AI, funnily enough, and there's more depersonalization. And people, it worries me how many, particularly younger generation, don't have people skills, are afraid of conversations. And some of the things that we took for granted, just pick up a phone and ring someone, is now seems like an alien concept for a lot of people. So I think more and more people will need to sharpen these skills around IQ, EQ.
Definitely. We got going and didn't discuss yet what is Shiageto and where does the name come from?
Yes. Well, Shiageto is the Japanese word for a sharpening stone. So if you've ever had a knife, Carla,
Sharp
that
knife.
isn't sharp, I don't know about you,
Sharp
sometimes
enough.
you go and cut something and then you get a stone and sharpen it. That
Right.
stone in Japanese there's lots of different names for those stones depending on how sharp you want your knife to be. But the final stone that you use for the sharpest finish is called the shiageto. Okay. It is a
Yeah.
stone used to sharpen knives, swords in Japan, and there's a whole culture around it. And I sort of came up with the name because I was really trying to find a nice analogy for the company. And I was really struggling, and I was trying lots of different words in English. I was trying lots of different words in other languages. And then I was stuck and I was making dinner one night using some Japanese knives, and I had to sharpen them because they weren't cutting the piece of meat that I was trying to cut. Uh, and it was then as I was sharpening, I thought, do you know what? This is the metaphor. This is the analogy. I wonder what the Japanese word for a sharpening stone is. And that's when I
You
got it.
sharpen the
Yeah,
skills.
sharpen those skills, sharpen another person. Instead of a knife, we're sharpening humans.
You are wise, aren't you?
Maybe just lucky, but I'll
Um,
take wise.
you support startups. What would be a blanket advice that you would give anyone thinking of starting their own business?
Oh, if you're starting your own business, I'd say get a good community around you. If
Yeah.
you're starting with someone else, then work out how you're going to work together, not just during the good times, but the bad times. But if you're building a company on your own, get a community around you. People who can provide you emotional support, they can provide you inspirational support, and they can provide you technical support because it's really hard when you go alone. So, yeah, surround yourself with good people, work out how to get the best out of them and yourself, and stay curious. I'd say those are really important things for startups. And in fact, those are really important things for anybody out there.
2 weeks ago, I had a guest who was Nikish Vaish. And when I asked him the same question, he said to
Yeah.
me, you need to have the truth tellers and the
Okay.
angels that are your cheerleaders. And you would be lucky if you can combine those two in one person.
Definitely.
Um,
Yeah.
a bit on your personal life, you are
Yes.
physically active. You go hiking, mountain climbing, anything else that you do? And where did you get your love for nature from?
I always try and stay fit. I think a healthy body provides a healthy mind. And actually, I get some of my best ideas when I'm out and about. I'm on a run, I'm
Yeah.
cycling. So it's very important to me and it feeds back into my business. And I think I got my love a bit later on in life, really. While I was encouraged to play outside and do all these things as a young child, I'll be honest, I was quite a lazy child. I would prefer to watch TV and play video games. I preferred to sort of sit on the sofa. I played sport sort of under duress, not out of choice as a child. And it wasn't until I took a year out before I went to university. And that's when I went to Nepal and I lived in a little village in the mountains. And there was
Right.
absolutely no choice but to be more active. I had to walk every day for hours just to get to and from the schools. And living
Mm.
at 3,000 meters, you had to get a bit fitter to climb everywhere, thinner air. But once I got through that sort of barrier, I began to realize just how beautiful where I was. Not that I hadn't appreciated it at first, but I was struggling with the getting fitter. And that's when it caught me. I was living in a mountain. I was seeing Mount Everest every day of my life for a year.
Mm.
It's hard not to embrace nature at that point, even if you've been the child who loved video games. And so that year really ignited in me both a sort of physical activity, but a love of the outdoors. And these are amazing things that have survived millennia. And it's awe-inspiring to be around them and in them. So why not go out and spend more time there?
Okay. You have just given me some hope. My son is 14 and he loves
Okay,
gaming, but he does enjoy sports. He is a sporty
good.
person. But when he is not playing footy, he is gaming. So maybe we should send him to Nepal.
Maybe that's a bit extreme, but hopefully it will, like with your son. But anyone listening, right? There's an important lesson here is understand what motivates you. Because all of us,
Mm,
it's a secret, different combination of things. And it's not like I stopped liking gaming and things, but I worked out what motivates me, and it's partly challenge, it's partly social conformity, so everyone else was doing it. Yeah, it's partly, and there's a secret source because now I've gone to ridiculous. I run marathons, I do these sort of things, and to keep that motivation involves all these little things. Because still at the back of my head, I'll be honest, there's times where I'm like, just sit and play on your PlayStation. Just sit and,
mm.
and I allow myself once a year, usually around Christmas, where I just sit for 2 days and play video games. Right. So
Yep,
you,
that's
you never get rid of that little voice, but what you do is you find other voices that motivate you and drown it out. And
mm,
I think a lot of our younger life is working out that combination of what the best voices for you are. Because once you get that combination, it can set you free to achieve not just exercise active, but so many things that you've stopped yourself from doing.
yeah. It needs to come from within. You were born and raised in the UK, but
Yes.
what is your cultural background and
Yes.
how were you as a child?
Yeah, well, culturally, I'm very proud to be Arabic, more specifically Palestinian. My parents both came from Palestine to London in the early 1970s. And so we have a strong sort of cultural resonance, in fact, of being Palestinian. We grew up eating Palestinian food, Arabic food. We grew up mostly spending our time with other Arabs that we knew. Family is a strong pull. So the food, the language, big influence on me personally and us, and me and my siblings. I'm one of four. So yeah, proudly Palestinian, just happened to have grown up in London. That's what I say.
And were you the naughty child? Were you the obedient one?
You probably need to do a podcast with my mum and dad, but I was the youngest of four. Well, I still am the youngest of four. So in my eyes, I was very angelic. But if you ask my brothers and sisters, they probably say I was the nightmare. I wouldn't say I'd say we were all pretty good, but maybe I was a little bit more relaxed than my other brothers and sisters.
All right, let me rephrase my question. If your parents were here on the
Yeah.
podcast, what would they say about you?
They'd probably just talk more than I would, but that's well, the thing is, I see my parents every week, so I have the pleasure of hearing what they say. They're very proud of all of us. They're very proud of me. They'd say that I'm terrible at timekeeping. That's what my dad said to me yesterday. He spent a good half an hour when I went round for lunch telling me how bad I was at staying on time, but what a joy it was to see me. So I think that's a nice summary, right? That I'm warm and I sort of tell lots of stories, tell lots of jokes, and bring the family together and break the ice. But I am terrible at organization when it comes to family and sort of take liberties sometimes, push the boundaries. So there you go. That's probably what he would say. I know he'll probably watch this, so I'm sorry, Barbara, if I misquoted you, but no, you can join Carla for an episode.
And how did your parents take the decision for you to go solo and have your own business? You have had a stable job, a really good paying
Yeah,
job.
yeah, I had
But
a really good job. I'd sort of reached the top of my profession in consulting, so it was a shock that I decided to go solo. Now, again, they won't mind me sharing that my dad was happy. He'd run his own business. So I'd say he was shocked, but also saw the benefits that he'd run his own business. He'd seen the opportunities. He was proud. He liked the entrepreneurialism. So he was very supportive from day one. My mum, it took her a little bit longer to get that level of support because she was worried, more risk averse, leaving a good job. You've worked very hard to get to where you are. Why would
yeah,
you do that? She was also worried about what it meant on her. She was very proud of where her children had achieved. So you have a whole support team behind you, and your identity is part of their identity. So if you change
of
things,
course.
you're not just impacting yourself. So that was those were some of her initial reaction. Now she's immensely proud because it was a risk and the company's doing well. But it's funny how there's a journey in people's
Hmm,
emotions.
definitely. Faris, on LinkedIn, you have listed your goals for the year.
Yes, I have.
How
Yes.
does this help you? More so
Yes.
that some of those goals are really personal, like finding a partner.
Yes. Well, I thought I'd got to walk my talk. I did it, and I always say to people, LinkedIn for me is a gem. Okay, the biggest beneficiary of LinkedIn is me. So the reason
Hmm,
this is the first time in my life I've published my full goals because I wanted to hold myself accountable. I wanted to challenge myself. It's very easy to write a goal in private, and then only if you've achieved or failed it, and you can make excuses to yourself. And so when I started, I thought, okay, this year I'm going to be public. And then I initially only put sort of business focus, but I said, that's not me. My whole of me is business and personal. And in fact, I go in and teach senior leaders to be a bit more human. So
Mm,
would it be a little bit disingenuous if I'd be telling them this and then in a public forum only publish my business goals or only publish half my goals? And particularly as my number one goal, Carla, is to be more open,
mm,
to share my emotions, to be more open about how I'm feeling, what I want. So it just made sense to me. But it's scary putting all your goals out in a public forum
sure it
because
is. Yeah.
as soon as you do that, what happens?
All
People
eyes
begin
are
to
on
comment.
you.
All eyes on you. So I began to get comments from people all around the world, Carl. I got people saying, "Oh, those look very difficult. Those are too many goals." So people giving me their opinion on my goals. I got people cheerleading me, go on, I'll support you. I think it's very brave of you. Yeah, make sure you do them. I got people telling me their goals. Hey, you didn't ask, but here are my goals. All right, thank you. People asking me if I could hold them accountable. Can you check in on me every week about my goals? And then I got this really interesting thing. People who wanted to help. Right.
Yeah.
So, one of my goals around running, I had people contact me. I'll go running with you. Right. I've got a training plan you can follow. Right. I'll support you. I had goals around books I wanted to read. And I had people send me books. Hey, here's a great book. You should read this. And then when it came to romance, I had people say, I know someone, I didn't even know you were single. I know someone great I can introduce you to. So it's amazing. You can be really scared, but really great things have come out of it so far. Now, we're only 2 months into the year, but it's been fascinating. This just doing that act of putting my goals, putting myself out there. And I often say it can seem scary, but lots of good things can come back to you.
So it is a good thing. Why is it hard for a person like you to find a partner? What have the obstacles been?
Good
Is it the
question.
time and era that we are living in?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it comes down back to the barriers you put in your way. Right? Now, let's be clear. I think, first of all, I never made it a big enough priority. And it's not like I've been a monk all my life. I have been in relationships that just didn't work out. So I find myself in my 40s, single. And I think so some of it, there are different stages. I didn't put enough priority into it. I put work
Yeah.
first in a lot of my life. Now, I spent a lot of my life traveling for work. I'd be away Monday to Friday. And it's very hard to build relationships when you're away most of the week. I think other reasons I sort of cut myself off. So even when I was in relationship, I wasn't as open as I could be and didn't go fully in. I think other times I've been too fussy and had too many dismissed good opportunities that have come my way for one reason or another. But it also goes the other way, right? It's not all just about my choices and what I do. So I think finding a right person is very important. And it's about right time, right place. You've both got to approach with the right mindset and the right spirit of openness, wanting to build something together. I am confident now that it is out there and I am focused on it and I am in the right space that I will meet that great person.
I find it amazing that you do reflect on every stage of your life. You
Yeah,
do reflect on things that you have done and where you are at on all levels. And for that, I take my hat off for you.
thank you.
Chris, anything else you would like to end our chat with?
Just that. It's been a lovely chat, and I hope people have found it interesting and useful. And anyone who is grappling with any challenges, I hate to tell you, we all grapple with challenges. The good news is you can always find a way to overcome them. I was just talking with someone this weekend. I genuinely believe with IQ, EQ, FQ, if you can make little changes, little enhancements, that will bring a big difference. So don't give up. Keep going with your challenges. Just find your magic combination. And if I can help, then drop me a line.
And where can people connect with you?
I think the two great places are, as you said before, LinkedIn. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. I share a lot of my life there and I answer every message that I get. So look up Faris Aranki on LinkedIn. Or the other place is Shiageto, shiageto.com. You can read a bit more about the company, get some great tips, but also you can contact me and the team through that.
Lovely. Faris Aranki, thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you very much, Carla.